Can I ask Māori who to please open us up?
Tēnā no tātou katoa, e hui mana ki tēnei ata, mo tēnei o tātou nei huinga o Ngā Mānukanuka tiwi. Tēnā mihi atu kia tātou, tēnā koe, e te kāheka, nau nei e mihi atu kia koe, hara mai rā ki te tautoko ana i a tātou ngā Māori katoa, mana whenua, ngā tangata whenua, i noko ana i o tātou nei takiwa o ahuriri. Ka sira kia mihi atu kia koutou, ngā kai kaunihira, kia koutou kia konui kia korahi. Aku rangatira, aku tuahine, ea koutou katoa ngā kai mahi o te kaunihira. Tōtahi ki te mihi atu, ki ngā mate, ko wehe atu ki te wakainga o ngā mātua tupuna. Te ata nei, e mihi aroha ki o tātou nei whānau, te whānau tareha, i mate atu ki tō tātou nei ranatira hiu. Hoi no, e te whānau o Ngāti Pārau, te marae o Waihoki, he tangi ana, he tangi ana, he tangi ana. Nō reira, e mihi anō rātou, weha rā te wakainga o ngā mātua tupuna, e mihi atu ki ngā whānau, ngā hapū, ngā iwi katoa. Nō reira rātou mā, haere hoki atu. Ka sira, i timatanga o tātou nei karikia, ka muri rā he waiata. Tākina mai ko te kaua nui, ko te kaua roa, ko te kaua whakatike, ko te kaua hea mai a tiki otarani. Ko te pū, ko te weo, ko te rito, ko te pūkina, ko te wānanga, ko te taura, ko te tauira. Tēnei rā, te awhia nuku, te awhia rangi, ka aha hauku no te ahua nui, i o nui, i o roa, i o matu nui tarani. E pū wai taki wawa nuku, wawa rangi, ka aha hauku no te tipua, ka aha hauku no te tawhito, ka aha hauku ki te kāpio na atua, uhi, waero, hara mai te Māori, haumi, ui e,
Aiki e. Hareruia, kia ihoa o ngā mano, ki te kahui ari ki wairua, ko te māngai hei tautoko mai, te arepa, te omeka, tautoko tia mai te ropurei, piriwiri tua amuera, ka puta ka ora e. Ai, kia ora no tātou. Ha tuatahi ake a tēnā rawa atu koe mori hui tō tātou nei karaki tēnei ata, ha nāu te kaupapa nei tūwhera, ha tēnei au kāmihi. Tēnā koutou katoa ko taimai nei tēnei ata ki te tautoko tātātei nei hui. Kia ora, good morning at the committee. Welcome to our Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi committee hui. Just a reminder that this hui is recorded and live streamed on Council's Facebook page. I have an apology from Robbie Paul. Other than that, we're all here. Can I have a mover in a second, though, please? Kia ora, Keith for moving, and Deputy Mayor Brosnan for second.
Also had an apology from Councillor Taylor to note.
Councillor?
Taylor.
Oh, Taylor. Sorry. Can we please have a mover in a... kia ora, we'll just go under the same mover in a second on that one. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Kia ora, Chad. I did email you this morning that I have to leave at 10 o'clock. And so I will be leaving early if the meeting is still continuing.
Kia ora, thank you. Hopefully we can finish it by 10. Kia ora. Anyone against? Kua mana. There are no conflicts of interest, no announcements by the chair, no announcements by management. Moving on to minutes. Are there any additions or edits required for the minutes? Ka pai. if there are no additions or edits, I will put that the Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi committee meeting minutes for the hui held on Friday 8 April 2022 be taken as a true and accurate record of the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Kia ora Waitiria. And Councillor Bogue, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Ko mana. Moving on to updates from partner entities. I'll go first. I've only got 2 updates. Just one update on Matariki Hapu. So there's going to be a Matariki kaupapa held at the Wauheki Marae on Matariki June. And 1 second. So the iwi have also come in and tautoko this. Napier City Council are tautoko, are going to support this kaupapa as well. But Matariki Hapu is a marae-based Matariki kaupapa which will be taking place at Wauheki Marae, bringing Hapu and the community together, acknowledging the significance of Matariki through Māori games, mahi toi workshops, presentations. The Matariki Hapu starts on June 24th to the 29th at Wauheki Marae. And then finishes up on Mataruaho on the 30th, which is a collaboration between the iwi, the Napier City Council, and there's going to be a first time we run this event, and hopefully it's going to be a success. But yeah, no mai haere mai. Welcome to all. Everybody in the community, we'll get a pānui out to the community soon, hopefully. And my next update is next week we have our High Court hearings at the Napier Court regarding the marine and coastal areas. So that's the Taku Taimoana, and Takaha is actually leading that on behalf of the Hapu. But other than that, that's my only 2 updates from Ngāti Pāro. I'll move on to Maraenui Districts and Māori Committee Waitiria Creeks for update.
Morena, just up the top of my head, the update's probably the splash pad coming along slowly but surely in Maraenui. I can see that the car parks are going to be done next week, and so also next week Kāinga Ora is going to have a few displays of the new housing developments that are anticipated in the next couple of, I think maybe 18 to 24 months was the timeline I got. So yeah, that's good news for Maraenui. Still a lot of mahi to be done, but yeah, that's it for today. Kia ora.
Thank you. Moving on to Napier City Council, Mayor Wise.
Kia ora, through the chair. First up, I will just talk briefly to the public information campaign that the Hawke's Bay councils are looking to launch very soon with regards to the Three Waters reform model. So I did send out the committee just a quick one-pager yesterday, but now that the select committee process is due to commence next month at some stage, we're in a position to set the wheels in motion for our regional campaign, which the basis of the campaign is actually just around sharing information. So we're not advocating for a certain position. We're actually providing the community with information around the central government proposed model, and we're also going to give them information about the Hawke's Bay model so that they can have an alternative or a comparison as to what else would be possible. And a big part of the campaign will actually be about providing information and educating our community on how they can engage in the select committee process and make a submission. So this essentially is our final chance as a council, and obviously as our mana whenua partners and our wider community to have input into the Three Waters reform model, which has currently been put before us by central government. So we feel it's very important that our community is fully informed and provided with an opportunity to engage in that. So I'm not sure if anyone had any questions on that in particular.
Kia ora, no, thank you. Just please let us know as soon as possible when we can get involved with that. And
Absolutely. So there will be a number of different platforms used in terms of sharing that information, and we're just teasing out the final detail now, but certainly it's my preference that we also hold some public meetings and face-to-face meetings, particularly with key stakeholders, so we'll keep you informed as the detail of that is finalised.
kia ora, thank you.
And then in terms of what else has been happening within Napier City Council, I guess this week we had our housing review hearing, which was good to finally have that come to us formally so that we could make a decision. It's a process which has been underway for 4 years now, since 2018, and created quite a bit of uncertainty and anxiety with our tenants, with them not being sure quite what would be happening with their houses. So I was thrilled to put the motion to the councillors that we actually retain ownership of all of our council housing portfolio and look to introduce a sustainable cost recovery funding model, which will be comprised of rent increases plus a rate component. And we'll be working through a process to implement that over the next sort of 12 months, essentially. We will need to go back out to the wider community through our annual plan process next year and consult on the proposed rates increase. But you know, we're really looking forward to actually having a good look at that. We're also, as part of the resolution, are going to undertake generate a housing strategy, which the initial focus will be on our council-owned housing, but ultimately it will be looking at the provision of housing across all different parts of the city, so that we've got a good strategic plan going forward. And yesterday we had an update from our working group that's been focused on the library or the community hub, and that's progressing really well. So the master planning has been completed, and we will have a formal paper coming to council and to Ngā Mānukanuka i te iwi in the next round of committee cycles, to essentially be able to move forward to the next phase, which is the concept design for that new community asset, which is pretty exciting. So that's sort of probably the top of mind things for me at the moment.
Kia ora. Did anyone else have any comments or questions? Ka pai. Thank you for that update, Mayor Wise, and kia koutou ngā kaikaunihera councillors. Tēnei te mihi nui ati kia koutou for your guys' decision on the housing kaupapa. Kia ora koutou. Moving on to Māngai Hapori, te kaha.
Kia ora koutou. So first one, just wanted to raise the letter I sent only 2 days ago. It's in regards to the waka haurua, a submission on behalf of the whānau, the crew of the waka haurua, in regards to the current location of the waka, mainly health and safety concerns. There'd been a number of issues raised around people vandalising the waka, damaging the waka and its current location, and seeking support in regards to a temporary solution while the harbour, the long-term plan, which is mooring in the Iron Pod area, is when that gets firmed up. So in the short term, we were pretty keen to look at other options. One of those options were to put in a temporary floating wharf off where the current location of the waka is, and that obviously there'll be costs associated with that. So that was a letter that had been included in the long-term plan, a submission, and so probably just, it would be good to seek support from the committee or from members of the committee that are able to. I guess, to total call the kaupapa there. So that letter got sent out. Was everyone able to take a look at that? So there were some pretty serious things in there. I'll just read them out just so that, over the last 2.5 years, there's been regular incidents of vandalism and abuse towards the crew. This includes defecating on the deck of the waka, ripping down various flags, which includes the Tino Rangatiratanga flag, letting the moorings go on the lines, which let the waka go afloat. Luckily, there was a neighbouring fishing vessel, and the skipper on there was able to pull her back to shore. Ripping down handrails, cutting open life rafts and safety nets. So those are some of the things that the waka crew have encountered at the current mooring area. And so, it's the solution, like we said, is in the long term is the iron pot berth, which will give it some security. But in the short term, one of the solutions that we're proposing is a temporary wharf that's kind of a floating wharf just off where the current location is, where it can actually be fenced off and more secure. But the waka crew are keen to have further kōrero with the Napier City Council on how we can better secure its current location. I'm unsure of how we can maybe support this letter, given that, like you say, that councillors aren't able to support the letter because it's been submitted as a part of the long-term plan. But is there anything to say that the non-councillors of the committee support the letter, if in case that's, that's what you choose to do? Or?
Absolutely. I think the non-elected members of the committee could certainly include in the minutes of the meeting an informal endorsement, because you wouldn't be voting on it as such, but you could include an informal endorsement of the letter, and as discussed, we would obviously have to abstain from that, just so that we're not perceived to be predetermined in the decision with regards to the annual plan hearing itself.
Ka pai, so do I put that as a motion that we...
It's not a motion that would be voted on, but you could just ask that it be noted in the minutes that, and perhaps name the committee members, and just a brief explanation as to why other members are unable to support it, and that you endorse the letter that's been submitted as part of the annual plan process.
Kia ora, thank you. Did you capture that? Oh, I definitely 100% tautoko that kōrero.
Okay. So through you, Mr. Chair, we have a workshop on Tuesday afternoon, the council elected members, on the Inner Harbour, and I wondered if the plans that are going to be submitted at that workshop concerning, part of it is the siting of the Wakahaura, and I wondered if that has been run by the Piripi and any of that trust for their input.
Just through the chair, I do understand there has actually been some discussions with the group that's developing the iron pot.
Could I also suggest that committee members are invited to that workshop if they're available to attend?
Kia ora, tautoko.
Ka pai, more happier note, just building on the Matariki celebrations between the 20th to the 24th at the Waitangi Regional Park is Aotearangi running events there for Matariki. On the Friday morning there'll be a hangi and hautapu and such, so no mai haramai to that event. The Waihoki Marae, so it was last week that we opened the new Papatakaro there, the new playground, which was pretty cool. There we mihi to all of the supporters, Napier City Council for supporting the playground where the Pettigrew was coming over to the marae, and then also Apollo and the contractors there for installing it at our marae. So that's uplifting for our whānau there. And for Te Waimauri Trust, the nursery has put its first plants on Otatara Pā on the EIT side, and also established pest control traps across the pā as well.
Kia ora. Thank
Could
you for
I
the
ask a
update.
question through you, Mr. Chair? Sorry.
Yep.
I wondered if the Waihoki Marae whānau Ngāti Haro has had a look at the indoor courts that are being built at Pettigrew Green Arena, just around the corner from you, because it's pretty impressive. And I'm sure if you wanted to have a look at it, you'd be able to have a tour. We have, and it was just quite mind-boggling, actually.
Kia ora, kia ora. I've been through the building, but haven't had the opportunity to take the whānau through, but I know there is an opportunity there, and thank you for that reminder. That's a good idea, and yeah, it's an awesome building, and tautoko i o kōrero, yeah. Tēnā koe, Te Kaha, for your updates. Any other pātau questions of Te Kaha? Ka pai, moving on. Ka hoa tū te rākau kia koe, te pouwhakarai.
I'd like to just carry on with the matariki concepts. It's really wonderful to see so much kaupapa happening for matariki this time around, especially with the first year that we have a statutory holiday to represent, to celebrate our new year. Mōtio also has actually got some kaupapa going on with matariki, so a lot of our whānau there have also been given a grant for that, so you know, that's going to be really great, and that was led by our whanaunga Elena Hokanga, so you know, it's a mihi atu kia tātou. It's a really wonderful time for us and to celebrate. An in-house side of things, Wakarangapu have been working on a lot across the board with many things, and especially with the library and civic precinct, so we've had some hui about that in the recent times, especially yesterday. That's coming along, and it's wonderful to hear that the concept of having engagement with mana whenua throughout the whole process is really good to see for us, that what we can achieve together in code governance and code design. We're looking at the Marine Parade, the cultural narrative building side of things. In recent times, there's going to be a realignment of Puketitiri Road, so Beverley was part of that, to have a look at the any sites of significance we went through there, to straighten up the road. So there's a lot of development going around there. We're also in the process of restoring the original names of our areas through the post-settlement. So we're still working on that at the moment. We're also on the dog control bylaw. So that's actually quite an interesting kind of process to go through. Our pānui ki te marae is we've had a lot of feedback of that, and it's been really positive. Yeah, there's a lot more to come, so we've been busy. Kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe te pouwhakarai. Just on the matariki kaupapa again, tautoko i o kōrero, it's awesome to see it, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the Council for the support they've been giving to the numerous matariki kaupapa out there, and in particular te Wakarangapu for your guys' tautoko. Tēnei te mihi nui ati kia koutou. All right, we'll get straight into...
Sorry, just before we carry on, he pātai tāku, and it's in regards to the committee and conversations we've had in the past around progressing the structure of the committee and such. How are we tracking with that? Did we have timeframes on that? And then in addition, we also talked about potentially the membership side of things, and you know, ideally if mana ahuriri and the tai whenua were able to join the committee, but if that wasn't going to be the case in the near future, then we'd look for potentially marae to enter the conversation, and still have the door open, obviously, for the tai whenua and mana ahuriri. But how are we tracking on that?
Thank you. So through the chair, that's it is an ongoing conversation, and we are still working with mana ahuriri and tai whenua to get them around the table in terms of representation. The goal essentially, and with the other changes around committee members here having a seat around other standing committee tables, the aim is to have everything in place for the new triennium, as we are so close to that now. That's October the 8th is election day, so we'll continue to have the conversations with the key stakeholders there, with a goal, as I said, to having that governance structure firmly in place for the new triennium.
So it's for October 8th, is it?
That's correct. So that's election day, and then as the mayor, I set the governance structure. Straight after that, we have our first formal full council meeting in early November, and that kicks off the cycle of all committee meetings. So yeah, it would be in place for that 8th of October kick-off, essentially.
And will we make a at what stage will we make a decision around potentially opening up to marae if that's what?
That will be part of that process before, so before the 8th of October, that will be part of the overall conversation around the membership of this committee.
So will the decision be made before the 8th of October and then be enabled after that day? I'm just trying to understand when
The formal decision will be made by myself. So as the mayor holds all the decision-making around membership on a standing committee, so that although I may have, a very firm idea of what that might look like before the 8th of October, the formal decision will actually come through when we adopt the governance structure. But obviously, all of the groundwork to get us to that point will be occurring over the months now in the lead up to October, and all of the ongoing conversations with the key stakeholders will be occurring over that period.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Could I just add another Matariki event that people may not know about? Tamatea High School has set aside a whole rugby or football field to plant native bush, and it's going to be kicked off the day before the Matariki holiday, so it'll be, I think, the 23rd of June, the Thursday. And the idea is it will have a Matariki theme, the way that it's being designed. And it's being designed by Robin Fabish, the principal, in conjunction with Colin James of Friends Bush. So it's going to be something similar to Friends Bush. It's a start to, a huge native bush planting that's happening, that they're hoping that there will even be a huge space in the middle where they could have school assemblies or different events. But those of you who have seen Friends Bush, you can see what can be done in 40 years. So I'm sure there'll be opportunities for this committee to come along to I think 7 o'clock in the morning, that Thursday, the 23rd, for the turning of the turf and the beginning of this planting.
Kia ora. Was that Tamatea High, did you say?
Beg your pardon?
Whereabouts is that?
Oh, if you go along Taradale Road and on the right, just after the roundabout on the motorway, on the right you see Tamatea Intermediate and Tamatea High School. So it's sort of just the first field, I think, the Tamatea High School. That's what they're planting.
Kia ora, thank you
Expensive.
for that. And tēnā koe te kā for your question, and Mayor Wise for your response. Was there any other additions to any of that kore? Oh, yep.
Just on the side of that, from an operational side, I'm working closely with the Mayor to work through options for our next triennium to relook at the membership and how we do that, and have a probable possibility to go out to our people. I think it's important that our people also have a say on who we represent on our committee, because it's their voice, and working with our Mayor closely with that, and hopefully we need to do this before July, because in August, September, our councillors step back and go through their whole re-elections process, their campaigns, and so we want to have something in place before then. But like Mayor Wise has said, the whole process after, we need to wait until after the election has done so. But it's in motion.
Kia ora. I'm more than happy to make way for more of our whānau to come in. In my position, I'll put that out there.
Kia ora.
Ka pai. No other further comments, kōrero, questions? Ka pai, we'll move into our reports, No Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi committee reports today, so just moving straight into a report from Napier People and Places Committee, hui held 28 April 2022. Our first report, we have Jane Libby presenting to us this morning. Do we have
Darren.
Kia ora. Oh,
And
Jane and Darren. Welcome to our hui this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jane Libby, Napier Eyesight Manager. So we presented this paper to the People and Places Committee meeting, and the purpose of the report was to receive the recommendations of our service review. of the Information Centre and Pātu Mini Golf. So we had 3 recommendations. So one was to approve the S17A eyesight service delivery review. The second one was to approve the development of a business case for a Tier 1 visitor information centre for consideration in the next long-term plan. And the third one was approve investigation of building options to accommodate a Tier 1 visitor information centre, once again to go through the next long-term plan.
Maybe some background on what Tier 1 is?
Yeah, so Eyesight New Zealand have gone through a review of the 64 eyesights throughout New Zealand and the structure and the strategy. I'm a member of that board, and we have made some recommendations and come up with a different structure that we have currently. So we've got a Tier 1 that we're looking at, which is sort of the gateway, the bigger, strategically positioned eyesights, of which Napier is one of those. And Tier 2 is a slightly smaller eyesights in places where there's probably not so much visitor flow as some of the Tier 1s. We have applied for central government funding to help with that development. As we all know, the budget was announced yesterday, and the tourism part of the budget was which was a bigger announcement. So we're expecting over the next, 2 to 3 days to get some more information and some more detail about what that funding will include. And we anticipate that any announcement around the eyesight will be within that. So it's to do with the visitor levy funding that central government have. So we're staying confident that we will get the funding, but at this stage we still don't know. But hopefully that will come out in the next few days. So that will enable Eyesight New Zealand to roll out the new strategy, the new structure, and do some new branding and strategic work. So it's a pretty exciting project if it comes off. And, we absolutely have had council approval to be part of that. So I guess our paper was just to allow us to go to that next level, I suppose, and develop a business case so that we can sit round with our stakeholders and ensure that we have everybody along that journey with us. So that's what we were looking for.
Kia ora. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Just through you, Mr.
Councillor
Chair. Jane, a few years ago, we had some submissions concerning the eyesight before this new development, and there was the concept of the hub and the spokes, with Napier being the hub and the spokes going out to the smaller centres. Is this similar to what is being proposed now?
We're certainly, through the chair, we are certainly looking at a tourism hub, but the business case will flesh that out, but that's certainly a consideration within that.
So it'd be more like a regional, it would be perhaps a regional approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to mention to the members, you'll see there's an action point, officers to speak to Liz Munro, Chief Executive Mana Ahuriri Trust, before our next council meeting. That came out of the fact that in the Section 17A review, the 2 main sites that were considered to be the best possible options, and that'll come up in the business case, were the existing site and Conservation House, which of course is now owned by Mana Ahuriri Trust. So there was going to be a conversation with the Mana Ahuriri Trust about that. So I did see her, I think yesterday, perhaps talking to the Chief Executive. Has there been any...
Through the chair, my understanding is that Business and Tourism Manager Steve Gregory has tried to make contact with Liz, and I know that the CEO has also made contact to discuss this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Any other questions or comments, kōrero?
I said, in the report, you had those 2 options, but your preferred option is to stay at the current site, is that right?
Yeah, through the chair.
And the purpose of having a kōrero to mana ahuriri about Conservation House was just to flag that you raised it as an option, but it didn't end up being the preferred, or what was the purpose of the kōrero?
Through the chair, the reason would be is if we developed a business case and we defined that actually the better location isn't the current site, we need to make sure that all our stakeholders are aware that there is other options and to really flesh that out. So often the business case, through the better business case model, looks at all of those particular site options and their feasibility. So we're basically saying that it may be an option, so we should be just having those discussions now. It might not be. The preference is still our current site, but we need to understand if that actually works or not within the new business model.
Right.
Just through you, Mr Chair, when the Section 17A review was done last year, the Conservation House was not owned by Mana Ahuriri Trust. So the issue is now it has given another layer of possibility when the business case is done of possible partnerships with Mana Ahuriri Trust, which weren't apparent or obvious when the Section 17A review is done. So I understand it will be considered quite seriously in the business case, and that's what the discussion with Liz Munro, CE of Mana Ahuriri Trust is.
And again, for the chair, a business case, a really good team of business case writers will scrutinise the decisions that we've taken so far and really challenge that. So that's why these conversations are so important.
Great.
Kia ora. Ka pai, I'll put the motion. Ngā Mānukanuka te iwi supports the recommendations made by Napier People and Places Committee. That is A, approve the S17AI site service delivery review and recommendations. B, approve the development of a business case for a Tier 1 Visitor Information Centre. And C, approve investigations for building options to accommodate a Tier 1 Visitor Information Centre. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Kia ora te kaha, and thank you, Waitiria, for second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, kia ora. Kua mana. Thank you, kōrua.
Thank you.
Cool. Our next report is regarding the Welcoming Communities Accreditation application, which was a decision of council. As the item was a decision of council, we don't have an officer presenting this report to us today, but I will take the report as read and will note that the Napier People and Places Committee decided under delegated authority to meet the Welcoming Communities application deadline. Therefore, they approved that an application be made. I'm happy to support this, and I will put that Ngā Mānukanuka te iwi receives the update and supports the decision made by the Napier People and Places Committee to meet the deadline. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, and anyone want a second? Mayor Wise for second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Kua mana.
Too late.
Again, we don't have an officer presenting the next report on the Napier War Memorial Restoration Project update. Therefore, I will take the report as read and will put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka te iwi receives the update on the Napier War Memorial Restoration Project. Before I ask for a mover and a seconder, does anyone have any questions or comments on that report?
I wondered if Mayor Wise or Deputy Mayor Brosnan wanted to say anything, being so closely involved with this project.
I guess, yeah, it's all outlined in the paper, but essentially it was an update to elected members and now to Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi about the progress that's been made on the War Memorial restoration. We are at the point where tenders have been put out for the actual construction outside, and the current timeline is for completion, including the restored plaques and the floral clock in March of next year.
Kia ora. Anything else? Any questions? Kapai, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Seconder? Councillor Price. All those in favour? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kua mana. Next report is the update on the Civic building demolition. I'll take that as read as well. Are there any questions or comments on that? Ka pai, no questions or comments?
Were you involved as a part of that processing?
Not really.
Kia ora, so this is part of the wider Civic precinct, library precinct area master plan, which
I was
Ed
part of
was,
the
involved
Civic
in
precinct.
that. So this is just a very minor component of it,
Which is the demolition of
demolition of the old Civic building there.
Note that we're going to have display boards around the area. Were these specific themes called at all?
I'll pass over to the Deputy Mayor for this because she's leading that working group.
Yeah, thank you. So the purpose of the display boards, I suppose, is to show what the concept design, or the concept that we've worked through the master plan is with the staged approach to building on site. We also have Darren Gillis here, who's the project lead. So Darren, I'm not sure if you had any more thoughts on the project boards as such that will surround the temporary fencing.
Through the chair, it will very much be telling the story of the concepts for the new build and also other opportunities to tell our stories in that area as well. But the primary use of the hoardings will be to kind of bring our community along on the story of the development.
And the only other thing I'd note is, I'm not sure if it was picked up in the paper, it may be in there somewhere, that we had a huge amount of interest when the document went out for tender for the demolition work, so much so that I think we received 4 or 5 requests for extension. So we did push the time frame out by another week to allow those construction firms or those firms to get their tenders in. Darren?
Through the chair, it closes today. So
Perfect.
at 5 o'clock today, we'll know exactly how many, but we're expecting probably up to 5 or 6 tenders in.
Perfect. So a really exciting milestone for the project to start seeing some physical works on site over the next couple of months.
The reason why I asked for the boards is that it might be an opportunity for the mana whenua group that have been engaging in that process to maybe have some space to tell a story.
I think in honouring the co-design approach to the project, I think that's an excellent idea. Through the chair. Yeah.
Kia ora. So if that closes today, when will you make a decision?
Through the chair, we go through basically a 2-week period of assessment, and my colleague Cameron next to me is part of that assessment group. There's about 5 of us on that panel, and that's independently chaired by our procurement person from MB, because it's quite a big piece of work. Depending on the complexity of the tenderees, then we'll hopefully make a decision in about 3 weeks' time from now.
Thank you.
And also through the chair, just to answer Te Kaha's one of his maybe inquiries that you might have, we're also part of it too, to understand when the date of the, we will do karakia, so we'll call mana whenua to come and do karakia before we put the hammer to the stone.
Kia ora. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I was just going to signal that I would be more than happy to second the a move from my member down here around an offer of space on the temporary signage for mana whenua. So if TK was interested in moving a recommendation to this committee, I'd be more than happy to second that.
Kia ora. So the motion would be to provide us space, or
Yeah, that this committee asked the project team to make an offer to mana whenua for space on the temporary signage
Kia ora, thank you for that.
to tell a story or use as they wish.
Kia ora.
I'll second that.
You'll move.
You're moving it.
Oh, moving. Oh,
You're
no, total koinoa.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, thank you.
Did you capture that then? Kia ora, thank you. So Te Kaha will move that. Deputy Mayor Brosnan's happy to second that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, kia ora. Ko mana. Thank you for that.
Sorry, may I just add something else? One of the other issues is the fate of one of the 2 huge murals that were done maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago as part of the 50 Seawalls murals, which have been done around the city. The one on the sidewall was done by a man called SQ1, quite a famous muralist, and that will of course go down with the building. But the one on the front panel is removable, and the issue is, and I know the committee or the project group is consulting with Sinza Merkins, who is one of the leaders of this whole Seawalls project, to find another home for it. So the idea is that this will come down. It's done by an American muralist who was here, but it illustrates and depicts in a sort of a hieroglyphic form a whakatauki about how when the sea is healthy and when the land is healthy, everybody's healthy. So it's quite a significant piece of work, and I think every effort is going to be made to preserve it and find a new home for it. So if anyone can think of anywhere appropriate, I'm sure the team would love to hear about that.
Kia ora, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, no, just supporting those comments from Councillor Bogue. I understand that obviously until we take it off, we'll be able to assess the condition of it, but also, excuse me, that its location facing east is quite important to the design and the artist and the story it tells. So, yeah, it would need to be hopefully an eastward with the sea view wall that we could find for it. So, yeah, just giving a shout out to that if there's a location like that that's found.
Beautiful, thank you. Nothing further regarding this kaupapa? Kia ora, so I will put, so we did move that first motion, but I'll also put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the report titled Akapoi. So I don't need to move it, that's been passed. Okay, moving on to our next report. This next report is also a decision of council. As the item was a decision of council, we don't have an officer presenting this report to us today. And I will take the report as read and will note that the Napier Peoples and Places Committee made a decision under delegated authority to enable the funding application to Eastern and Central Communities Trust be submitted and processed this financial year, and to approve the external funding application of $19,000 to the ECCT for the Napier Library's winter and summer reading programs. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
Yes, I just wondered through you, Mr. Chair, if we could find out if any response has been made to that application. Darren Gillis might be able to help us with that.
Through the Chair, I have heard no more on that at this point, but I'll follow up with Nicola and find out. Thank you.
Okay.
Kia ora. Anything further from the committee? Ka pai, I'll put the motion. I will put the Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the update. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Bogue
Decision of council.
and Deputy Mayor Brosnan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kia ora, kua mana. That concludes our reports received from the Napier People and Places Committee. Moving on to our reports from the Prosperous Napier Committee, hui held 28 April 2022. Our first report is the Health and Safety Report. And my note, well, we have Adele with us this morning. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and through the Chair, I'll just take the report as read today. I think the report is explanatory. Previously, these reports were going through to our Prosperous Napier Committee, into our Audit and Risk Committee, and we've now brought them through formally to Prosperous moving forward. And so there's a bit of visibility about all the great work that our officers do in keeping all of our staff healthy and safe. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions or comments on the report? Anything further from you?
No, just that we are probably experiencing a second wave of COVID amongst staff at the moment. We put the stats in our report, and we did see the original graph sort of go up and down as the national program also indicated. But we are seeing a little bit more of an impact coming through in the last week, and we think it's just as a result of the recent holidays and everyone returning to school again. So we're just mindful of our business continuity and making sure that we're able to continue our services under these conditions. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you for the update. I'm happy to receive the report. I'll put that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the report. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Te Kaha, and a seconder. Thank you, Keith. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, kia ora. Kua mana. So moving on to the Hawke's Bay Museum's Trust Draft Statement of Intent and Financial Reporting. Are you presenting this report?
Through the Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee, but just to note that the work has been ongoing in relation to fundraising for the collection, which is obviously important to this committee, and also the governance is being reviewed, and a peer review of that recommendation is happening at the moment, and that will be coming back through the joint working group and back through councils in the near future.
Kia ora, thank you for the update. Are there any questions or comments?
Just that there was two items really similar. Are they on the same?
Through the Chair. So you've got the statement of intent, which is effectively a plan of what's going to happen in the next couple of years, and then we've got the annual report, which is the paper that follows, which they will end up being discussed together. So the annual report itself is obviously late because it relates to last year, and it was due to the availability of audit.
Yes, I have a question, just through you, Mr Chair. When will the move be made to put the collection items in the Hastings? I know it hasn't been built yet, but what's the timeline, please, Adele?
Through the Chair, there's still a matter of finalising the funding for that particular project. So once that's been resolved, then they'll be able to confirm a timeline around that. But there was the costs have escalated, so they're working through some value engineering at the moment to try and bring that down.
Kia ora. If there are no further questions or comments, I will put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the Hawke's Bay Museum's Trust Financial Report for the 6 months ended 31 December 2021 and the Hawke's Bay Museum Trust Statement of Intent 2022 to 2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Waitiria, for moving, and Deputy Mayor Brosnan for second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. So that was the was that the... Oh no, we're moving on to the financial report now. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So in relation to the financial forecast, so this is Napier City Council's financial forecast to the 30 June 2022. And so the report outlines some of the variances and reasons. As everyone would appreciate, this year we have had a significant impact with being in the red settings and the ability of our community to then to travel and to visit our many sort of tourist activities. And so this has impacted on our overall revenue for council for the year. In addition, we've also found that our capital program has been impacted due to the availability of our contractors, the supply chain, and a number of other factors there. So that has impacted on our ability to deliver the full plan for the year. So you will note that our forecast was looking at a $54 million delivery compared to an $89 million capital plan. And in relation to our financial position, that we are looking at a net surplus, but is below the budget surplus so the difference is about $2.6 million. But the team are continuing to focus on improving those results between now and year end and mitigating some of that financial risk at the moment. Thank you.
Kia ora, any questions or comments?
Well, comment, I noticed that there'd been a reduction in the assets because of the return of the Potoko Manawa to Waiwaki. I guess just wanting to mention that, the power being looked after. We've got Jade Hadfield, who's a specialist in the field of caring for taonga at the marae. So I guess just reaffirming that it's in good hands. That we've got kind of like air conditioning running all the time and data loggers and things like that. But I did know that the PO was significant contribution to the museum, and it's evident in the report that it's a museum missed them kind of thing, but they're in good hands there home. So
Kia ora.
to add that to the call.
Tautoko there, kōrero. Anything further? Ka pai, if there are no further questions or comments, I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the financial forecast of 30 June 2022 and supports the decisions made by Council to approve the financial forecast to June 30. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mayor Wise for moving and Councillor Bogue second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. And so our next report is the Hawke's Bay Museum Trust Annual Report for year ending 30 June. Are you able to answer any questions, if any? Kia ora. I'll take the report as read. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Ka pai. If there are no questions or comments, I'll put that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the 30 June 2021 Annual Report of the Hawke's Bay Museums Trust. I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Aye. Kia ora, thank you, Waitiria. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. That concludes our reports received from the Prosperous Napier Committee. It is 9:57. Councillor Bogue, you want to hang around? We've still got...
Would you mind if I left now? Would that be?
Yeah, ka pai, if that's okay with the committee.
Thank you very much, and my apologies.
No worries. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
You have a good rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, you too.
And we're looking forward to catching up with you next time. Kia ora. Reports from Sustainable Napier Committee, hui held 5 May 2022. Our first report is the dissolution of the Napier Rotary Pathways Trust. We don't have an officer presenting this morning, and I will take the report as read, and I'll just take this opportunity to acknowledge the Napier Rotary Pathways as well for the mahi they've done in the community, for the walkway and cycleway networks throughout the city of Napier. I'll also put it to the table if there are any further kōrero or comments or questions.
Just tautoko te mihi ki a rātou. I know that they'd helped out with mahi on the pathway of Otatara, and a couple of our whānau actually worked on that project. So mahi to them for their mahi.
Kia ora. Anything else? Ka pai. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll put the Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi receives the update, and can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Keith and Deputy Mayor Brosnan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. Excuse me. Our next report is the Central Football relocation of the proposed artificial turf at Park Island. We don't have an officer presenting this report as well, but the option before council is to approve or not to approve. Are there any comments or kōrero anyone want to share? Kapa, I'll put to the table. If there are no further comments or questions, I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o Te Iwi supports Central Football Incorporated, thank you, and Napier City Council advance investigations and associated consultation regarding the possible relocation of the proposed artificial soccer turf, contrary to the endorsed location in the Park Island Master Plan. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Keith. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kia ora. Ko mana. Our next report is the proposed McRae field toilet. Again, no officer presenting this. I'll take the report as read. But the same options are before the council approve or not to approve. The risks associated with this are general risks you would expect. But so in that case, I'm happy to move that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi supports council approving the funding, the proposed toilet block installation and operation. Do I have a seconder for that? Kia ora, mea wise. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. Sorry, were you against?
No.
Oh. Ka pai. Our next report on the Napier water supply status, end of quarter 3, 2021 to 2022. Again, no officer presenting this. I will take that as read. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Ka pai. If there are no further questions or comments from the committee, I will put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives the Napier water supply status. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? TK to move, thank you, and Keith to second. All those against, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kua mana. Next, we have the report on the Three Waters Reform Program. Again, no officer presenting this report. Any questions or comments from the committee? Kia ora, Mea Wise.
Through the chair, just to provide an update with regards to the Three Waters Reform Program, and in the written report you will note that there were some comments around potentially some of that funding not being fully spent before the cut-off point, but I have had a verbal update from council officers since then and confirmed that we have fully utilised the 12.51 million that we received from central government, so none of that will need to be returned.
Dang. Okay, I did pick that up too, and I was going to ask a question about that, but no worries. Thank you for that update. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Ka pai, if there are no further questions or comments from the committee, I will put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives and endorses the report. I'm happy to move this as well. Can I have a seconder, please?
A second.
Mea Wise for second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. Report number 6 from the Sustainable Napier Committee is the adoption of the Code of Practice for the Land Development and Subdivision Infrastructure. No officer presenting this report. We will take the report as read. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
So just to confirm, that's the document that got sent out as a separate PDF? Yeah, that was a bit of a beast. I did go through it. I scanned through it. I just had a question in regards to, I'm not too sure if anyone can answer this, cultural impact assessments or through middens, or trying to think of the term that's used, heritage areas, areas of cultural significance. Did it have that protocol in that in the document?
Does anyone?
Through the chair, I'll try and answer that. I think that comes at a slightly different level. So what happens is that the Code of Practice hangs off the district plan, and the district plan should identify whether the cultural impact assessment or whatever is needed prior to kind of engineering stuff coming in later. So that's a kind of like a step that should happen before we hit the Code of Practice, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
So it sits in a different code.
It's the regulatory document that the Code of Practice relies on is the district plan. That's the kind of the law that it hangs off, and that level is the level that actually also has law regarding whether or not you have to do a cultural impact assessment. So it's in the parent document, if you like, but it is catered for, is the point.
Kia ora, Mea, Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to kind of, I suppose, further clarify that the way it would work is if someone was wanting to undertake an activity that triggered need to look at the Code of Practice for the subdivision or land development, they would obviously get their plans drawn up and make an application to council. Council would assess that it met district plan requirements, resource consenting, which is where the cultural impact assessments are made, as well as consistency with this document. So I think what you're talking about is covered, but it's covered at application stage, whereas this is kind of like design stage, if you know what I mean. And yeah.
Kia ora. Other comments around so stormwater. I thought it looked a little light on water quality and prioritising water quality. So has the document been finalised or?
My understanding is that yes, it has been.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to go through double debate though.
Yeah.
I know that, it's not to say that there weren't any references. There were. It just seemed light. So it would have been, especially in the stormwater section, section 4. And what would have also been good to see is a reference to biodiversity, specifically some of the plantings for the stormwater, like the swales, the wetlands, but also in the section 7, the landscaping section, references back to biodiversity, and kind of promoting kind of native vegetation. Yeah, that I don't think there was any references to those. It talked about ecosystem, but it didn't talk about, specifically native species and biodiversity, so it would be cool to add some of that in there.
Yeah, through the chair, I wonder if we could, if we could pick your brain a little bit about those areas, even at this late stage, to try and hear that and do that outside of the committee. But we would be those comments would be really welcome.
Kia ora, anything further?
Those points.
Kia ora. Thanks for that, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm just looking over at our table of staff over here, and I'm looking at Cameron because I know you've had some workshops with council on this kind of thing, and especially the stormwater quality. I'm just wondering what mechanisms we might have to make amendments before council adopts it, because I don't want this committee to feel like it's too late, because that's the point of why these go through this committee, is to have input. So it does go through double debate. It's not finalised, and what mechanisms do we have to pull through a little bit more developed thinking on those issues?
Thank you for that. Kia ora, Kim.
Through Mr. Chair, there will be an opportunity to take TK's comments back to the crew who were developing the code of practice. So yeah, I think Richard's idea is good. Take this offline, get your feelings and thoughts on that, and we'll collectively go back to the team and see whether there can be some redevelopment of that.
Further point, it is, Anna's just pointed out. Good scheme. Anna has just pointed out that it is reviewed annually, this document. And the other thing I wanted to say was it is quite complicated because the regional council's got all sorts of stuff in this area as well, and there's no point in duplicating what they've already got as well. So we haven't got visibility of all the other stuff that is outside of the subdivision code of practices ambit. But I think what we need to do is kind of understand those points of concern or that you've got, and then work out whether they are being covered by the suite or if it should be an amendment in there.
Yeah. I think the more we can include those points, when it comes to processing time and just reviewing all the plans and things, the better. Appreciate that there's other strategies and plans on, surrounding it, but I can't see any reason why we couldn't put them in there. Yeah.
Kia ora. Nothing further from the committee? Kapai.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Is there any urgency that we adopt this, or if this committee made a recommendation that it be held while further work was being done, does that create any issues?
Unfortunately, it's a bit hard for us to say that. I think that there is no harm in doing that, and if there is, we'll sort that out in the double debate process.
I think it would be good what you suggested too, because just with, I know there's a lot of development happening in Town and bit of development happening in Ahuriri where there's a lot of concerns, and just a development happening over in Ahuriri at the moment. Mana whenua come in with a lot of concerns, and because there was nothing in the district plan, one, the council didn't consult mana whenua, the developers didn't consult mana whenua, the owners didn't consult mana whenua, and they've gone and found middens. And now mana whenua are real upset with that, upset with the council, upset with the developers, and upset with the owners for not coming to mana whenua. And the response I got was nothing was in the district plan, so therefore we don't have to go and speak to you. I found that quite offensive, and now the owners are being held up, the project's been held up, and this could have been all sorted before works commenced. And just because there was nothing in the district plan, they just all went ahead, and now we've got heaps of concerns. And so I'll be happy to, I'll be interested in being involved with some sort of a discussion around that. And around Town as well, there's a lot of confusions around there with the landowners out there, and a lot of different processes, and they're confused, we're confused, and it'll be good to come together and try to hopefully plan a clearer pathway forward, and a number of kaupapa, but kia ora for your kōrero this morning and for bringing that up. And yeah, all our kōrero this morning on this, but if there are no, I'll just ask one last time if there are any further comments or questions from the committee. If not, I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka te iwi receives and notes and supports all the recommendations and kōrero come out this morning.
So are we passing it, or do we have to pass it, or are we not passing it?
No, we'll
or
receive.
Passing it subject to conditions, or?
You can change your recommendation to council if you would like to, from what's there.
We'll receive and note all the, well, that's a good question, actually. Can we just note that this is taking place? And
Yeah.
We could recommend that we put it forward for further discussion. Refer.
Kia ora, I'm happy to put that. So, okay, then I'll put. So, what's the motion to further discussions? Or for further?
Yeah, that the committee notes the report and refers the paper for further discussion prior to adoption by council, and the minutes will note the matters for discussion.
Kia ora, thank you for that.
I'll second that.
Kampai. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ka pai. Kua mana. Moving on to the capital program delivery. Do we have Jamie? Kia ora, Jamie. Are you there? Morena, Jamie, you're just on mute at the moment.
There we go. Bit of new technology for me here, so sorry about that.
Ka pai. Yeah, just welcome you to our hui this morning. Please take the report as read. Is there any additions to the report since we received this?
Oh, from me?
Yeah,
not that I know.
No additions. Ka pai. Any questions or comments from the committee?
This on the capital program delivery?
Yeah, capital program delivery.
Through the chair, I guess just to speak to some of the components in the report, you'll note that we are experiencing delivery capacity constraints at this point in time due to supply chain issue, availability of contractors, and a number of other factors. So we will not be able to deliver our full capital program for the year. Council officers are currently working on a more detailed report around what components or elements of the program may well need to be pushed out, reprioritised and reviewed. So that will be coming back to both Ngā Mānukanuka and other council committees, and I think that'll be coming back in the next reporting committee meeting cycle. So,
Kia ora. Are there any further any questions or comments? Ka pai, if there are no questions, I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives the report. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mayor Wise and for mover and Keith for second. All those in favour, please say aye.
aye.
Aye. Kua mana. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us this morning. Good to see you.
Thanks very much. See
Kia
you
ora.
guys.
Next, we have the Better Off funding, and we have Adele to present this to us this morning.
Kia ora. So the Better Off funding is part of a release of funding that the government's put forward for the Three Waters reform. It's in two tranches, the funding. Tranche 1 is available up until 30th September 2022. The second tranche, should everything continue with the new government, will be available from 1 July 2024. As part of the Tranche 1 funding, Napier City Council has available to it $6.46 million. And in the report, it talks to what that funding can be applied to. So I'll just briefly give you a rundown there. It's supporting communities to transition to a sustainable and low emissions economy, including by building resilience to climate change and natural hazards. It's to support delivery of infrastructure and/or services that enable housing development and growth, with a focus on brownfield and infill development opportunities where those are available. And the last one is the delivery of infrastructure and/or services that support local placemaking and improvements in community wellbeing. What I would like to bring to the attention of the committee is that on page 320 in the report, it talks to the requirement for the funding to be processed is that we're required to work with iwi. And on the page 320 talks to that process. So you'll see that depending on where we are with our relationships, and we've got the current state and potentially a future state for the ability to access the Tranche 2 funding. Our council passed some resolutions, and so for us to proceed with the signing of any agreements and to continue working through the process was that they needed to confirm that they could continue to exercise its democratic right to oppose and/or voice concerns and/or question the legitimacy of the Three Waters reform proposal, and that us taking up the Better Off support package would not affect our ability to deliver our existing water program of works, capital and operational. So that was just to round out where our council landed in terms of its resolutions. Nothing has been signed to date. It was subject to us as officers coming back to council with that information. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kia ora, any questions from the committee?
So sorry, just to clarify, if the council apply for funding, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily born into it, the Three Waters program. Is that what you're saying?
Just a hope.
I'm happy to talk, through the chair, I'm happy to talk further to that. So essentially the agreement we received from DIA included some clauses that may well have prevented us from being able to continue to publicly oppose or voice concerns regarding the reforms, and it also included sort of a wide-sweeping obligation to collaborate and cooperate with DIA to achieve the reform objectives. So we essentially have, through the resolution of the day, directed council officers to engage with DIA to renegotiate or make some amendments to those clauses so that we did continue to have our democratic right to publicly voice concerns around the reform. We have received verbal confirmation from DIA that they are happy to provide, not necessarily change the clauses in the agreement, but provide us with a supplementary written letter confirming that if we were to carry on advocating on behalf of our community and opposing the reforms, that we would not be in breach of the contract. So we're just waiting for that written confirmation now. We're also, as you're aware, members of the Communities for Local Democracy group. They have the same concerns that we have with regards to some of the clauses in this contract, and are in the process of working through a process by which they can collectively engage with DAA about this as well. What we did want to ensure, though, is that council officers could actually work in the background on what the 6.46 million may be spent on, in anticipation that we have that written confirmation regarding those points. So I'm not quite sure where council officers are with that process, but we did not want to hold that up in anticipation that we will be successful in receiving the confirmation that we've asked for.
It would seem to be a shame to be able to miss the opportunity if
I agree completely, but at the same time, it would be even more of a shame to lose our ability to actually have a voice with regards to the ongoing reform process when we know that there is a huge portion of our community that are very unhappy with it.
Kia ora.
Anything further? Oh, so it's quite prescriptive, the iwi mana whenua engagement, but I'm assuming that that's a priority as a part of putting together the application. Cool, so mana whenua will be engaged at some stage, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
It's a matter of having to, through the chair, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, is that detailed in the report?
Through the chair, yes it is, and including the agreements that we would need to sign up to as well.
Ka pai. Any further, yes, Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, you'll take my apology. I was absent from this council meeting, so I just had a question. The dollar figure we've come to, the 6.46, is that based on that calculation index of population, land area, deprivation index? Is that how we've come to that figure?
Yeah, through the chair. So the original amount that was given or acknowledged is 25 million, and so now they've just broken it up into two components. The first tranche being 6.46 of the $25 million. But you're right, it was effectively, a national calculation on how to distribute the 1.5 billion in the first instance.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Kia ora. No further questions? Ka pai. So if I'll put the motion there. Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi supports so there's three options. I'm just going to put Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi supports option P, which is to approve Napier City Council to prepare an application for the tranche 1 Better Off support package available as a part of the Three Waters reform, up to $6.46 million, subject to the Crown's agreement that Napier City Council can exercise its democratic right to oppose and/or voice concerns and/or question the legitimacy of the Three Waters reform proposal. I'm happy to move that. Is someone, can someone second?
Happy to second.
Councillor Price, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Ka pai, kua mana. Thank you. Moving on to the road stopping and granting of easement over vested reserve. Awa toto, again, no officer presenting this to us this morning. I'll take the report as read. Are there any questions or comments in regard to this report?
Through the chair, just to comment that this particular agenda item and agenda item 11 as well are linked to our new ball fields and the resolution of our dirty water issues. So, yeah, great to see that these are moving forward.
Kia ora. No further comments from the committee? I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives the report and supports the road stopping process and granting of an easement over reserve land as outlined within the report. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Brosnan and was it Councillor Price? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Kia ora. Kua mana. Moving on to the report, number 10, lease of reserve. Lease of a reserve at Anderson Park to the Buzzy Bee Trust. The options for council are to approve or decline a new lease to the Buzzy Bee Trust. Are there any questions or comments in regard to this report? Ka pai. If there are no questions or comments, I'm happy to put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives the report and supports the council approving the new lease to Buzzy Bee Trust. Yeah, I'm happy to move that. Calling for a seconder, please. Kia ora, Waitiria to second that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora. Kua mana. Moving on to item 11, which report number 11, initiation of process to change reserve purpose, which Mayor Wise just touched on. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Kapa, I'll put the motion that Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi receives the report and supports council initiating the process to change the reserve purpose. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Mayor Wise to move and Councillor Price second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. Kua tai mai tātou ki te mutunga o ngā ripuata. That brings us to the end of our reports from the Standing Committee. Brings us to general business. Oh, sorry. Oh, what is that? Oh, sorry, that's not on my
Don't forget.
run sheet. Oh, sorry, two reports from Future Napier Committee, Resource Consent Activity Update. Again, no officer presented. Oh, yes, Luke. Kia ora, we got an officer. Kia ora, are there any additions or changes to the report since the report was?
Kia ora. No, there are no additions. However, I did want to provide you an update on
Thank you.
Key account managers team that's been recently formed within council. The purpose of this team, there's currently 4 members of the team to provide an initial point of contact for some major developers in which to liaise with council officers for major developments. The purpose of that is to try and streamline the process whereby advice and feedback can be provided quite promptly, and to also assist in engaging with our Te Waka Rangipu Directorate so that they can be involved in this process when necessary also, and to ensure that they're well informed of the development that's occurring within Napier City Council. Obviously, they would liaise with local mana whenua as well, and we can also utilise that CAMS process to identify where local iwi groups are required to be, engaged.
Kia ora. Any questions or comments from the committee? Ka pai, thank you for that update. If there's no questions or comments from the committee, I'm happy to receive and note the update from our officer this morning. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Brosnan and a seconder. Kia ora te kaha. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kia ora, kua mana.
Kia
Kia
ora.
ora. And our last one is a proposal from Art Deco Trust, Women's Restrooms Memorial Square. I'll take that as, I have in my notes no officer presenting this report to us this morning either, so I'll take that as read and open it up to the table. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Mayor Wise, thank you.
Through the chair, I just wanted to make the comment that this is a really exciting opportunity for council to partner with the Art Deco Trust to actually move forward with the restoration of our Memorial Square women's rest rooms, which have been out of commission for quite some time now. And the Art Deco Trust is very motivated to sort of take the lead on this project, and that is why we resolved to get this memorandum of understanding in place as quickly as possible, and we are looking to adopt that with final approval of the 2nd of June, our next council meeting. So obviously we will ensure that members of this committee are kept informed and provided with a copy of that memorandum of understanding when it is completed in preparation for that council meeting.
Kia ora. Thank you. Any questions? Ka pai, so I'm happy to put the motion. Te Ngā Mānukanuka o te iwi supports the preferred option, which was the option 2. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Mayor Wise for move, Te Kaha second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, kua mana. Does that bring us to our... Kia ora, moving on to general business. Are there any items in general business? Ka pai. Tēnei te mihi nui ati kia koutou katoa. I hope you've all had a good week. Hope you all have a good weekend. I'd just like to ask Morihu if he can close up our hui, please.
Tēnā mō tātou katoa. Ai, e tautoko ki moto mihi atu kia mātou. E haumaru kia tātou, o tātou wāwhakatā. E ngā mihi atu ki tātou nei whānau. Me ki ana kia koutou te whānau o Ngāti Pārau, ngā waiuhiki, mo te tangihana o tātou nei pāpā. Ahu, ore noa. Tēnā mihi atu kia tātou. Kia tātou katoa. Te āta whai o tō tātou ariki a Iukuraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake. Āmene.
Āmene. Kia ora. Thank you, everyone.
Kia ora.